Hi, mine's Phil. I like talking about politics, and we are very close now to the Privileges Committee starting their week's worth of witness interviews into whether or not Boris Johnson deliberately misled the House of Commons, an investigation that could potentially see Johnson recalled from Parliament. But is Rishi Sunak being careless enough to be storing up a similar fate for himself after an explosive interview with a Tory MP yesterday seemed to suggest that the new Prime Minister lied to Parliament yesterday? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the Suella Braverman security breach just got a lot spicier yesterday. Labour had been granted an urgent question to ask the off-again, on-again Home Secretary about the reasons for her resignation and reinstatement. Braverman was in the chamber for PMQ. She was there. She could have answered the question, but she scurried off a few minutes before Labour's Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper got to her feet. And for anyone not paying attention, she pointed it out to everyone. This craven escape before laying on good and thick the serious risk to national security that this all poses. But then it got even better. Jake Berry, the Conservative Party chair under Liz Truss, and clearly no friend of Braverman's, was in an interview last night. He said that she was a serious threat to security. The official narrative is that Braverman resigned due to a technical breach of the rules by sending state files from her personal email to a colleague, and it went to someone else accidentally. In reality, it was already known that she was made to resign. Everyone knew that. But Berry said that Braverman was in the regular habit of sending top secret files from her personal email. He claims that she refused to even admit it. She was confronted with it, she lied about it, and it was only when she was shown absolute proof that she had to accept it. Now that implies she lied to the people who were presenting her with the allegations last week before they showed her the proof, maybe even the Prime Minister, or the Prime Minister at the time. We keep getting new ones. What it means is that the questions about Braverman's suitability to hold any high office, much less that of Home Secretary, are now much more urgent. But it's the potential impact on Sunak that's most interesting, or it is for me. Because at the end of the day, if Braverman continues to behave in a way that forces her removal from office again, that'll be no problem for Sunak. He needed her support to become Prime Minister, but she would hardly have been his pick for any cabinet colleague, much less Home Secretary. He can't easily drop her now, even with this pressure, because that would annoy her support base. It wasn't just that he needed her one vote, he needed her support. But if events transpire, which means that her support base accept that actually she is a liability, Sunak can easily replace her. But that is for later on. I would suggest that Sunak's advisors right now would do well to warn him of the danger that he personally faces if he's not a lot sharper. Because for all the mock joy shown by right-wing commentators about PMQs yesterday, Sunak was dancing rings around Starmer. They would be well advised to remember that Starmer is a prosecutor. Someone whose career was spent trapping people in lies. He was considered one of the very best prosecutors in the country, and he was certainly the most senior. And let's look at what those skills have already done. Boris Johnson is facing a major investigation into potential lies to Parliament. The investigation is only possible because of a careful series of traps that Starmer laid in PMQs over a series of months as the Partygate scandal was unfolding. He knew that Johnson was lying. We all did. But it's one thing to know, it's another thing to prove it. He knew that Johnson was only admitting to whatever was known at the time, but lying about what he thought would remain covered up. But Starmer probed anyway, got him to make statements that, if more information came out, could trap Johnson in the lie. He may have even known that certain information would come out later. Don't know. But the point is that Johnson was careless enough to think that he could pitch his bluff and bluster against an accomplished prosecutor. And it backfired. Sunak is in danger of the same thing. In Parliament yesterday, he said, again, answering Starmer's questions, he said that Braverman raised the issue herself and resigned. Sunak said he accepted that she'd recognised she'd made an error of judgment and we all deserve a second chance type thing. But this is not consistent with what Jake Berry, a cabinet colleague of Braverman's at the time, said in an interview last night. He said that Braverman did it all the time and that she refused to acknowledge that she'd done it until she was shown proof. Now, this doesn't place Sunak in immediate danger. You know, he can try and claim that he wasn't in cabinet at the time, so he was reliant upon the account of others. If the truth comes out in incontrovertible form, he can try and claim, well, he must have been misled as well. I was just as much in the dark as anyone else. I would say, though, the weak link here is Simon Case, the cabinet secretary. It's almost certain that Case told Sunak, it is certain that Case would have told Sunak exactly what happened. He's got no reason to lie to cover for Braverman. He would have told the Prime Minister the truth. In fact, Case was apparently fuming at the reappointment of Braverman. So we know that Sunak has been told by Case exactly what happened. And Case is an official, he's a civil servant. He's not a Tory politician who will lie to cover for friends. If circumstances dictate that Case is forced to answer questions on what he told the Prime Minister, Sunak would be in very serious trouble. So Sunak is still in a bit of danger just from what he said yesterday. But the point is that if Starmer senses mileage in this, and I suspect he will, he's bound to ask further questions in PMQs over the next few weeks. After all, until the new budget's announced, not much else. What else are opposition leaders going to ask this new government about? It hasn't done anything. They have several weeks with nothing to do but to try and trap Sunak into saying something that can bite him on the arse later on. While Braverman remains in place, Starmer will surely scent blood. There were already lots of questions surrounding Braverman's reappointment, but now there's a public record that can be quoted from a member of the previous cabinet which contradicts Sunak's account to Parliament yesterday. So one of three things must be true. One, Jake Berry lied in his interview last night. Okay, he's a Tory, might be. Two, others have lied to Sunak about what really happened with Braverman's resignation, including the cabinet secretary, in which case Sunak, now that he knows about it, will have to correct the record in Parliament. Or three, Sunak himself deliberately misled Parliament yesterday. I mean, I imagine opposition MPs want to know which of those three is true. And I strongly suspect Sunak is going to be asked, who's lying? Was it Jake Berry? Was it Simon Case and Suella Braverman? Or was it Rishi Sunak? Which is it? You know, and the question is he going to engage with advisors and work out an airtight strategy to make sure that if if that issue does blow up, it doesn't blow up in his face? Or does he take the reckless approach that Johnson did? Assume that certain facts won't ever come out and think you can match the former Director of Public Prosecutions in a cross-examination. And there was me thinking that the only interest in the next few weeks in Parliament would be Johnson's investigation. We may well have the proto steps of a similar investigation into Sunak later on being set up at the same time. I think when you not only consider Starmer's background, but also the role he played in both Johnson and Truss's downfall, I think it would be a very reckless person indeed to think that Sunak, what's his experience at cross-examinations? He was a banker. What good did that do him? How did that prepare him for things like this? Politicians, they experience things like this. He's not been an MP for very long. He came in at the same time as Starmer, 2015. Very little experience. That he has the measure of a leader of the opposition who has put away some of the country's most serious criminals and buried his two predecessors. Time will tell, of course. We will see. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.